tell us who you got coming on, and then let's get right into it.
Well, speaking of experts, and one of our, uh, should I say, committed members,
Mm-hmm.
and even I would say he's a good advisor to the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce. I want to introduce Dr. Jeffery Sterling, who is an author and entrepreneur and physical. I want to say you're a doctor, physician in the emergency room. You may be privy to that because I just thought you were being cool, but you're actually in the emergency room. Good morning, Dr. Jeffery Sterling.
Good morning, everyone. Hope you're well. Thanks for having me.
Now we're having trouble hearing you. I want to make sure that we're getting our audio together. You're not muted.
I am not muted.
No, we'll come back to you. We'll come back. All right. So let's keep going.
Yeah, as we were saying, you know, Dr. Sterling is our healthcare expert. He's on all the major stations, WVON, as he comes with the expert advice. He was on the air a lot when we had COVID, and he continues to be on the air talking about the healthcare experience. And one of the things that he has taught me, and I have become a better person for it, in terms of my own personal health, but also in terms of understanding the inherent challenges that we have as a people, and as we have as Americans, quite frankly, because we have what we call a sick care industry, and nowadays, and we don't have what we call preventive care. And Dr. Sterling has taught me to understand how preventive care can make such a big difference at the same time. So I'm going to pass it back to LaDonnaeh and see if we get Dr. Sterling back on here.
Yeah, he's coming through the phone lines. But just in healthcare disparities, we were talking about this offline, which makes it more interesting because when we come forward, it's just an interesting. Hold on one second. Let me get him on. Dr. Sterling, you there?
I am. All right. Excellent. Can you hear me?
Well, we still seem like we're
Yeah,
having
we're
some audio
definitely.
problems,
Yeah,
so
definitely.
let us keep.
I'm gonna get. I'll be back. I'm gonna let you take care of this. The board.
I'm here.
All right, guys. You know how this is. It's live radio, so we're trying to get everyone
I'm on
on
a
the line.
commercial.
And we've got Dr. Sterling on. He's on both video and phone. Now, can you hear us, Dr. Sterling?
I can hear you on the video.
Phone, can you hear us?
I'm on a commercial.
I'm reading your lips because I can't hear you.
I'm listening to the WVON background music.
Okay, one moment.
Well, as we're getting ready to try to fix our audio problem, and the beautiful thing about life is that you adjust. And I just want to go back again and just kind of convey to the audience what we want to try to accomplish today is we know that healthcare disparity, just like business disparity, exists within the Black community. It's not enough for us to simply talk about the disparity. It's important to understand how to gather and draw the solutions that we're going to do in order to fix that at the same time. So what we're going to be talking about with Dr. Sterling is that he's going to give us some data on the healthcare disparity numbers that I think are already understanding. But also he's going to talk a little about SimpCo Solutions in terms of what it's designed to do in order to help us in terms of fixing that disparity. And then we're going to get into the conversation on what's next. What can we do to make sure, because Dr. Sterling has spent a significant amount of time in interview in reference to uh, trying to get this ball uh, across the goal line on behalf of the state of Illinois and on behalf of citizens, not just for African Americans, but for all people. Because what he offers here is a really different solution to some of the problems that we are facing as it relates to healthcare disparities at this point in time. So it's going to be an exciting conversation as we try to adjust to a little bit of audio
I think I figured it out.
problems. I think we're ready. Are we ready? We got it.
We're about
Hear me?
to.
Okay, let's see if we're about to have it here.
Can you guys hear me?
Dr. Sterling, can you hear us?
I hear you just fine.
There
Can
he
you hear me?
is.
I'll hear
Okay,
Can you
Dr. Sterling, can you say something for us?
something for us? Can you hear me?
All right, keep going.
All right. I'm still waiting to get let in.
Yeah, it's the microphone. It's set to the wrong microphone.
Okay, let's keep going. Are
All
you
right, on the phone, Dr.
Well,
Sterling, you're on the number.
yeah, we can hear him on YouTube.
Yeah, we can hear him
Yeah.
on YouTube. Okay, keep
hey
going because
YouTube?
I
How
can
you
hear
doing?
him.
Okay.
All right.
Well, Dr. Sterling, even though we're having some technical difficulties in reference to being able to make sure our audience can hear the important conversation that we're so excited to have in terms of healthcare disparities. I know our people can hear us on YouTube, but they
Hmm.
seem to have a little bit of
And on the
a,
radio, they can hear
on,
us clearly on the radio.
oh, okay.
Hmm.
Well,
Okay.
Dr. Sterling, why don't you go ahead and give us kind of some of the highlights of what you call significant healthcare disparities, and then let's move into a part of why SimpCo Solution is a solution to that, and why we ought to really be investing in the state of Illinois ought to be investing in it and making sure that this becomes something that will have an enormous impact, not just upon the health of people, but also black businesses at the same time.
Well, that's a lot. So let's back it up. The first thing you mentioned were the disparities that exist in healthcare, and those come in two different varieties. First of all, the types of healthcare disparities that people are tending to think about when they hear the phrase is very simple. If you look at the top 10 causes of death, African Americans are overrepresented in 9 of those. If you actually look at something that's even more interesting, which is life expectancy, African Americans tend to be 8 to 10 years behind the general population in terms of life expectancy. African American men are the demographic with the single lowest life expectancy in the United States, save for natives. Okay, so our situation at the beginning of the conversation is not the best. It's close to the worst. And going back to the Chicago experience during COVID, we famously came up with the notion or discovered the notion that depending on the zip code in which you lived, your life expectancy or your risk for death from things like COVID was actually twice that of the general population. So we have some work to do. And the long and short of it is that the transition, and why we're talking about this on the Wake Up Show Chicago, is that first of all, healthcare is the largest industry in the United States. People really don't think of healthcare that way, but I'm talking about the healthcare industry right now, not the healthcare system. The healthcare industry spends about $4.5 trillion a year, representing more than 20% of this nation's economy. So during COVID, it held us up as a day-to-day basis. It employs people, and there's just a lot of money in the system. Now, the way to tie those two things together is to realize the public health dictate that better healthcare outcomes are actually produced when they're being delivered by people that are either culturally sensitive or culturally specific. And that's where this conversation gets interesting to the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce. As luck would have it, Blacks tend not to participate very much in the healthcare system, the healthcare industry, excuse me. And even in the great state of Illinois, that is completely committed to healthcare, spending about $25 billion a year, African Americans are all in the low 100 or so $1 million a year in receipt of the money that's being spent on healthcare. So the challenge really is to find a way to eradicate those twin sets of disparities, the economic disparity as well as the healthcare disparity. And I'll stop there before we get into an in-depth conversation of what the SimpCo solution is all about and how it addresses both of those. You guys don't hear me?
So, Dr. Sterling, when you talk about how much money we spend in the healthcare, and yeah, we can hear you as we talk about the industry.
Yeah, I hear you just fine, Larry.
Go ahead. Go ahead. So there's a delay. And Larry was saying, as we talk about the healthcare disparity, and you left off right there. It's very important that we get your perspective so that we can move on with this conversation. Guys, feel free to call in. It's 773-591-1690. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to take calls for this particular topic as well. But Larry, go ahead and respond to Dr. Sterling as you were.
As I was saying, Dr. Sterling, is that when we talk about how much money is spent in healthcare, which is trillions of dollars. You said over $4 trillion is spent in healthcare. And we talk about the amount of contracts and opportunity that we get from healthcare industry. There's a significant disparity. And as you said, the twin problems, the issue of our longevity and our personal health. Now, there's some things that we can do to fix our personal health, and you got a number of books out there that people can go get. Talk about a little bit on the physical side of what you think African Americans should be doing in reference to um, taking better care of their health in terms of what they eat, some insights, and then from there, let's go to um, the SimpCo solution in terms of this particular issue.
Yeah, I'm going to get real for a second because it really is a pretty simple conversation. We currently, as a community, still have an over reliance on what, in truth, is an evolved post slavery diet. Once upon a time, when we were back on the motherland, we pretty much ate what grew from the earth. And we only ate meat back in Africa when it was a festival or a marriage or something and things were being roasted. But for the most part, we really were close to being either vegetarians or close to what- I'm hearing a commercial. Can you hear me now? I'm on a commercial.
And we're back on WVON 1690, the Wake Up Show Chicago. I'm LaDonnaeh with Larry Ivory and Dr. Jeffrey Sterling, and we're having a nice little faux pas there. So, Dr. Sterling, I want to make sure that we can hear you. We've got some tech looking into it. So, Dr. Sterling, can you say something for us?
Sure.
Now we can hear you.
Now we
All
can
right.
hear you.
Excellent. Excellent. Hello again. Hello again. I believe that we were talking about one or two quick tidbits. Let me just cut to the chase. The long and short of it is that we need to move away from what I call an evolved post slavery diet, which meant that back in the day when we were enslaved in this nation, we were given foods that we had to season beyond recognition just to make them palatable. That was a way of life. And in doing so, we actually have retained certain habits that lead to disease entities like hypertension and diabetes. Fast forward, the answer to the question really is straightforward. Everything you put in your mouth either helps you or it hurts you, guys. And we
Mm.
have to be more mindful of every single thing that we do because at the end of the day, the disparity that we just mentioned earlier was about life expectancy. And over the years of ingesting things that are high calorie, high fat, high salt, maintaining more weight than our body is equipped to handle naturally, we end up with more disease and lower life expectancies. So here's a tip for you guys. I'm just going to give you this one thing today. Close your mouth and get off your backside. Add more water to your diet, add more fruits and vegetables to your diet, and make your meat portions no bigger than the size of your fist. If you follow those things, we'll talk about that later, and you'll keep it moving, and you'll find out that you're a little bit better. So that's my medical tip for today for you.
Doctor, let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
SimpCo Solution is a remedy to a number of factors in terms of healthcare costs, better health outcomes, and also for economic benefit to the African American community. So tell us about why SimpCo is a solution to the problem, and then I want to talk about where we're at and what we can do to kind of make sure that if this is a solution, what do we need to do in order to make it become a reality?
Well, look, guys, as I mentioned before, there's 4.5 this year projected to be $4.8 trillion being spent in the United States on healthcare. There are zero African American owned hospitals in this country. You won't see any of the big pharmaceutical or managed care organizations owned by blacks. We have to ultimately get to the point to where we become economically strong enough and empowered enough so that we can take care of our communities. Without that premise, we will never get anywhere. This is not about participation. This is about us being empowered to be better stewards of our own communities in the same way that we challenge individuals to be better stewards of their own healthcare. The SimpCo solution really is a two sides of a coin in terms of addressing healthcare concerns. Long and short of it is that, and as we say in SimpCo, nothing about us without us. And we're interested in providing culturally sensitive solutions to communities so that you can do what's necessary to take care of your healthcare. And that means that public health best practices are produced when we are doing this to ourselves and for ourselves. On the one hand, the SimpCo solution is all about an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Instead of sick care, waiting until disease presents to go to my emergency department, we actually engage in health prevention and health promotion. We teach people how to wade through the misinformation and disinformation so that you know what things that you can do to make yourself better, so that you know the impacts of the things that you do on your short and long-term healthcare outcome. So we have experts that are actually wanting to have a transformational project over a generation to better educate our communities away from um, an evolved post-slavery diet and inappropriately, in terms of medical considerations, inappropriately worshiping a larger body habitus than a lean and fit body habitus. The other side of the conversation is the economic conversation. In order to do so and to penetrate and permeate the communities across the state and across the world, actually, which is how we're conducting our business, is to do so with entities that are Black owned or culturally specific, as I said before. So in Illinois, the SimpCo solution actually involves over 100 Black owned businesses that are coming together. And it's not just healthcare businesses, although there are certainly healthcare businesses, but the solution is delivered by accountants and IT techs, lawyers, in addition to healthcare professionals, health education and promotion, telemedicine, all the things that we know are best practices in public health are being brought together and delivered under one roof in places that look more like hospitals than look like clinics. So the SimpCo solution is a call to action so that we create capacity and function as primes in the project of delivering health prevention and promotion to communities. And with that being said, that is a very easy way for dozens of different businesses to get the type of experience that people never say we have, to get the financial wherewithal to do additional projects, because we always have problems with access to capital. And we can actually make a difference in uplifting our communities so that when we announce projects in various Black communities, it's not just an announcement about another business coming into our community and doing something for us. The empowerment is self-empowerment to take better care of your health, and business empowerment to be the deliverers of those services to communities that are historically underrepresented by healthcare and subject
Now,
to determinants of health.
now, Dr. Sterling, you've seen a lot of inside the to the healthcare system, and you've seen what happens when communities are ignored. And I know that there's a lot of things that we need to do, but would you say that you have hope that what we need to do is going to be executed more so now than ever? Or does it go back to what you said? It can't be about us if it's not with us. Does it take you and several individuals to get stronger and intentional in grabbing those reins and moving forward so that we can address what has not been addressed before? Are you hopeful right now?
I'm not in the business of hoping and wishing. I'm in the business of planning and executing. This
Mm.
goes back to the 72 hours conversation. We have to impose our will upon our environment and create the solutions that work for us in the long run. Hard stop. The other thing about your question is that I'm very impressed by the question because it climbs way down the rabbit hole in terms of how governments design public health policies. You always are going to do what is the greatest good for the greatest number. So systems are not designed with misrepresented, underrepresented communities in mind. It's all about services for the greater good. And in doing that, when governments tend to start with that conversation, there are always going to be underrepresentation, healthcare disparities, and other things that these systems mean to go back later and clean up, But, Larry, you probably are thinking that's the exact same thing that happens in every other industry. And that's why we're underrepresented in these conversations perpetually. It's because we never begin with the conversation about this, that, or the other that will affect our community at the beginning of the conversation. And this is where I point to the fact that, look, guys, there are things, there's a Gates Foundation, there's a Rockefeller Foundation, there's Kennedy Foundations, Clinton Foundations. Until we are economically strong enough to control the healthcare delivery systems in our own communities, we're always going to be waiting for someone's generosity instead of us being empowered enough to impose standards for our own communities. And that's why efforts like this SimpCo solution are so important. It's a FUBU, for us, by us, and we can direct the care in a way that we can't trust. That's a bad word necessarily, but it's factually correct, that we can't trust government to focus on at the beginnings of these conversations, where the philosophy is always high tide will float all boats. And time and again, we know that's not true, which is why when America gets a call from Black America gets pneumonia, we're always the afterthought when you design these things. It's just the nature of the structure of public health systems.
Dr. Sterling, you talked about trust just now and trust with the government, but what about the people that don't trust the healthcare system? There's a lack of trust on both sides, and how do you bring the two together? Because that's a big undertaking.
Yeah, but see, once again, I'm all for. I do work everywhere. I've worked in 40 states in the United States, and I'm here to tell you that people don't think the same way, and that's okay. Trust is as trust does. You can have your opinions, but you can't have your facts. And it's up to us in our communities to engage people in a way in which they view us as trusted messengers. And here's a pro tip for you. Whomever you choose as your trusted messenger is going to deliver you to whatever healthcare outcomes exist. So if you're in a community that is completely anti-vax, then you're going to find out later on down the road that you're going to have worse healthcare outcomes because you chose to eschew public health best practices. So the long and short of it is that you have to do the best you can to present factual information, but health self-empowerment means that people get to do what they want to do with that information to their own betterment or to their own detriment.
Okay, well, we have a caller. I believe we were expecting Mr. Jeff Trask to give us a call this morning. Good morning, Jeff. How are you? Welcome to the Wake Up Show.
Appreciate being on.
Thank you. Thank you. Jeff, sorry, Dr. Sterling, we have Jeff Trask on the line. We're able to hear him now.
Oh. Hey, Dr. Sterling, how you doing? Great.
Yeah, good to
Great
see you,
hearing from you.
Yeah, let me introduce Jeff. Jeff is actually one of the, I mentioned we have over 100 different subcontractors who are part of the SimpCo solution that, given the opportunity, will implement this strategy of health prevention and health promotion across the state of Illinois. Jeff is one of those, and just wanted to bring him on the show to talk about what he does and what he is looking to do inside the SimpCo solution.
Yeah, so I'm really resonate with what's been talked about in terms of our communities being left out when they look at the whole and not look at the equity issues that's involved. Our clinic down here in Champaign is doing direct care for the underinsured folks who's like access to care for over 20 years. We are embarking and have been embarking on outreach where we are in the community, boots on the ground, involved with different events and functions and getting the word out about population health, not just direct care as well. If we can get resources, we can really amp up that population health perspective to our communities. In Champaign, we have a very high infant mortality rate. We have all kind of other healthcare disparities between Blacks and other racial groups. One way we have to be able to resolve that is to look at our population health as a people. And to do that, we need to empower, like Dr. Sterling said, we need to empower folks that are in the community, who are part of the community, and give them the resources to basically help guide each other towards better health. And of course, we can lend expertise to do that.
Talk a little bit about how you're going to be participating in the SimpCo solution and why that's important for your business.
Yeah, so one of the key aspects of making this work is this patient navigation and community health workers who can actually be involved on a household level of being able to identify social determinants of health and not just look at what are the medical needs, what are the overall needs that affect someone's health and well-being, because we know as a people, we have more issues going on than just our standard healthcare. And so with resources, we'd be able to be holistic in our approach, being able to target those problem areas and be able to start getting people healthy one household at a time.
So that gets back to what LaDonnaeh was saying earlier. We actually, as part of this process, don't depend on lists of individuals. We actually go into communities, work with community-based organizations, and go find people to enroll in the solution. As I said before, this is meant to be transformational. We are literally engaging in hand-to-hand combat for your health, where we go into your communities, identify individuals who are eligible and who would benefit. And thank you, Jeff. What you're doing is a very important part of implementing that process.
Appreciate being on.
Jeff, pleasure having you on. Doc, so let me go back. Let me ask another question. You've been at this for quite a period of time, and this is a solution to that makes good business sense. Where are we at? What do we need to do in terms of keeping this alive? How do we engage in making sure, because it has economic benefit, it has healthcare benefits, it's good for the state of Illinois. What do we need to do? How do we make this happen? Because I know you've been working at this, and I know that those who can hear and understand this is really one of the great things that would make Illinois even more competitive. And I live in the great state of Illinois, so I want Illinois to be the best at what it does. And when I take a look at what I've learned from you in terms of healthcare disparities and where we rank in the United States, and how you so clearly articulate what the solution is, what do we need to do in order to keep it moving, to get it over the goalpost from your perspective?
Well, thanks for teeing that up. I would have been remiss if I didn't get an opportunity to say thank you to the General Assembly in general and the Legislative Black Caucus in particular. I think it was back in fiscal year 23, it was, that the Legislative Black Caucus actually prioritized the SimpCo solution as part of its healthcare pillars. It was actually named their number one priority in that year. And in the budget implementation plan, they committed to a 5-year, $300 million appropriation to that end. So they have approved $60 million in fiscal year 23, 24, and 25. So they keep going. They keep operating on our behalf and going to the well and approving legislation toward that end. So this is year 4, and we're simply asking the appropriation to continue. We also are asking the General Assembly's assistance in ensuring that this money gets on the street. There have been some challenges in terms of some huge challenges in terms of the money getting on the street, but we don't want to have any disillusionment of the process or failure, continued failure for it to be put on the streets. So we simply are asking the General Assembly and the Legislative Black Caucus to continue to approve the appropriation and then to assist us in getting the monies out from the agencies where they're assigned so that the project can not only be approved by the General Assembly, but actually delivered to our communities to provide better health. And I'll finish where I'll start on this point. The Black Caucus really has done yeoman's work year after year after year in the process and delivering money to us so that this can get done. We just haven't been able to actually get the project started.
And I want to. This is a question for all three of you guys because I'm a babe in this political aspect of the world. But if a legislator like Representative Amons or Senator Kohler were sitting in this studio right now, if you had the opportunity to have something to say to them about the healthcare system, what would you say to them to secure support for this proposal?
Well, that's the whole point. I can list rapid fire over a dozen different members of the General Assembly that have been vociferous and committed toward getting this process approved. Once again, it is no small measure that for 3 consecutive years, the General Assembly has approved $60 million a year for this project. So any of 2 dozen different members of the General Assembly would say, I thought this was done. This is fantastic. We approved it before. We're going to approve it again. We just want people to continue to keep that energy and to remember that this was a 5-year commitment that was made. And even as we still are waiting to get the project launched in communities around the state, that, the commitment, we need reaffirmation that the commitment is still there and assistance in getting it into the communities.
Well, let me just say this, Dr. Sterling. I want to commend you and your team for never giving up, because in most cases, when you have invested so much time and energy and you have such a great solution to our community into the state, that it's easy to go and do business somewhere else and say, the heck with it, I'll go someplace else. But your resiliency and your commitment to the community, and even the caucus commitment, one thing we can never do, we can never give up. We have to continue until we celebrate one day when this thing is actually done. And I hope that's a celebration that happens real soon for us, because it's so vital. I think when we take a look at the healthcare disparity, the economic impact, and the savings that we're going to derive from this solution, this simply makes good business sense. And if we're not getting it done, we got to figure out what's missing. Do we need to sit down with the governor and talk to him? We need to get with the appropriation chairs, whether it be John Gordon or LG Sims. We got to find a way of making sure that we don't just get it in the budget, but we get it appropriated and make sure it becomes a reality so that we can celebrate and we can begin to move towards better health for our communities. So I'm excited about the resiliency that you bring to the table, man. So what's your thoughts in terms of
Yeah,
what's
there are 2 points to be made there. I was born on 54th and King Drive in Chicago, right? I was born at Cook County. I did my residency training in emergency medicine at Cook County. I literally am a beneficiary of the things that we're talking about. My path to becoming whatever it is I am in life now was through the fortune of good health and educational opportunity, obviously. And in our community, just consider, if you will, as originally proposed, the SimpCo, it's important for people to appreciate how this falls sequentially. We propose that over 100 Black businesses would have received $1 million each as part of this process. That was the original proposal that the Black Caucus supported. You think about the economic empowerment of today, 100 additional businesses in the state of Illinois having $1 million a year in revenue. When I think, Larry, you like to throw out the statistic that the average revenue for Black-owned businesses in the state of Illinois is about 50,000. The SimpCo solution was meant to be something that created economic empowerment. And as I said earlier, once you get that degree of economic empowerment, we reverberate that money amongst our communities. We adopt better lifestyle habits. Then that really folds into better healthcare outcomes because we're the ones that are delivering those healthcare outcomes. So this isn't just a conversation about health services delivery. This is a conversation about the healthcare system, our participation in it, and what that can mean for both our health and our economic fortunes. Because in a state that is spending $20 billion, just a beautiful commitment to healthcare in the state of Illinois. The money is there. Let's not get it twisted. But when such a small portion of that money, under any circumstance, is being delivered to the Black business community, you can't help but appreciate the link between that paucity and the relatively poor healthcare outcomes that exist for Blacks here, there, and across the entire country.
yeah, Doctor? Let me ask this other question. When it's so obvious that everybody, not everybody, but say a significant number of people understand the significant healthcare disparities, and we know it exists, and I assume that there is a degree of concern about how do we fix it. I'm challenged by understanding why we haven't fixed it when it's such a important issue that should be one of the biggest priorities that we have. One, it creates economic growth and development for Black businesses, and we already know the numbers that 70% of Black businesses in the state of Illinois do less than $50,000 a year. And throughout the country, African American businesses, averaged about somewhere close to about $80,000 per person, which is pretty low in comparison to Hispanics and everybody else. Um, I guess I'm always puzzled. I always ask the question: what do we need to do? How do we get this done? How do we make sure that Speaker Welch, that the leaders of healthcare don't let this opportunity pass us by?
I'm
Uh,
I'm never surprised. Again, I've had this conversation with heads of half a dozen different countries, with states all around the nation. The bottom line here is that we're talking healthcare, folks. And as I said very early in the conversation, when you are designing systems, you are not designing individual solutions for individual communities. You're designing global systems that uplift the greatest number of individuals, then you fix the rest later. If we are going, you talked about resilience. Resilience is an absolute requirement here. Excellence requires no excuses. People are not coming to the conversation saying, oh my God, there's a problem with healthcare. Let's empower the Black community. Those two sentences or phrases don't fit together in the minds of many that make these decisions. It is incumbent on those of us like myself who are public health professionals who actually know the data to advance this conversation. We have to win the intellectual battle as well as deal with the political realities. I need to be able to show, and it actually is, these are all statements of facts that are indisputable. We have to go to the general assemblies around the country and to the federal agencies that are involved in this and show the data to make the case that this is a better path forward for the general population as well for communities of color, those that are historically underrepresented and suffering from healthcare disparities. And that's the conversation, that's the fight. We have to win the intellectual argument that this is a priority, that we represent excellence and not just some set aside. This is not a DEI conversation to those that have issues with DEI for whatever reason that might be. This is a conversation about healthcare excellence, healthcare best practices, and improving the healthcare for all the citizens of the state, while at the same time, especially addressing healthcare disparities that exist in Black and other underprivileged communities. And we have done that. We continue to do that. We would not have gotten the 3-year appropriation from the General Assembly had we not done that. We simply have to reach across the bridge that gets us to actually getting this money on the ground in various communities. And that's what we're committed to doing. We're way too close, have secured too much of the victory, not to stay committed to the reason why we've done this in the first place. And that's because people in our communities are dying, and there's not going to be a Messiah that comes along, and there's not going to be charity that comes along and fix this. We have to take care of our own communities, and we have to be deliverers of that healthcare, which is why the SimpCo Solution is a team of 100 or so different businesses that's trying to fix this collaboratively.
Dr. Sterling, let me ask this. The state and all states and most states don't have a surplus, and they're struggling, to reduce their costs and balance their budget and everything else. This SimpCo solution, from a selfish point of view of just the state and its budget, seems like help us to understand the economic impact that this would have on the state, where the state then can direct. If this thing from a in the beginning, it probably has a long, in the beginning, you don't see the real impact, but over a long-term period of time, we will see significant savings in healthcare. Can you walk us through why that is important if you are a leader of a state or leader of the country? Why reducing healthcare is important? I mean, reducing healthcare costs is important, and how does SimpCo Solution impact that from your perspective?
Absolutely. I mean, you have this again. I'm using this as an example, not as part of the solution. But if you actually talk about government efficiency, you have to talk about healthcare because there's so much money in it. It is the largest part of the healthcare system. I mean, of the gross domestic product in this country, 21%. Here's the point. When we talk about things like bending the cost curve in healthcare, that means simply an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. We've known that forever. And instead of investing additional money into the sick care system, the curative care system, investing money in health prevention and health promotion saves tons of money. Now, just to give you an example, in the state of Illinois, the managed care organizations charge the state about $540 per member per month to take care of about 2 million citizens in the ways that you recognize as insurance. Okay, the SimpCo solution actually is way more efficient than that. We're talking about $83 per member per month. So 83 for prevention versus 540 for sick care. And, I did, one of my companies actually has done telehealth and telemedicine in Japan, Tokyo, for 13 years. We had a 97% emergency department avoidance rate. Imagine, if you will, the individuals that go to the emergency department. And again, as an emergency physician, and I'm in the business of emergency medicine, I'm here to tell you that that is the most expensive portal of entry into the healthcare system. The average emergency department cost is about $2,300 in charges. Now, if you did the math, if you could call a telemedicine line, or if you could call SimpCo's telemedicine line for $83 a month, instead of going to an emergency department visit at $2,300 a month. And as an emergency physician, I'm here to tell you, over 80% of the things that show up in a hospital emergency department didn't need to be there. It could have been dealt with in a primary care setting or via telehealth or telemedicine. So if we have a 97% avoidance rate just by you getting on the phone and calling us at a cost of $83, instead of you going to the emergency department where you didn't need to be there at a cost of $2,300, it doesn't take very much for you to do the math and figure out that we're saving the state or any country that engages in this billions with a B, billions of dollars a year. And that's the value of adapting policy to the adage, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Hey, Doctor, so let me ask, is there any state that is really doing that at the level they should? And I think we're going to have a caller right after that.
No, actually, Jeff Trask is still on with us. I want to make sure that we rope him in because he's being so patient. I love it. But Dr. Jeffrey Sterling and Larry, I want to make sure that we also acknowledge our guest because I know he's probably trying to jump in, but it's difficult. Go ahead.
No, I've been enjoying the conversation. Dr. Sterling definitely has a vision for how to get this done, and the statistics don't lie. I'm part of an association where we show the state how much money we save them by providing direct care and preventive care, and it's a numbers thing. It's literally just a matter of savings, and if the state wants to save money, this is the way to do it. That's so ingrained with doing things a certain way, we can't get out of that practice, out of that mindset, and so having these resources to kind of change that mindset and be on the front lines of the community, I think will start trending in the right direction.
Yeah, well, for me, being a numbers guy and coming from the investment banking background, it seems like if you have a solution that's going to save a significant amount of money and improve, I always look for the win-win-win situation. The state wins, the community wins, and businesses win. That's the perfect deal, in my opinion. And if ever there's a time for the caucuses to come together, both black and white, no matter who you are, this simply makes good business sense. For us not to do it it puts us at peril because those billions of dollars that we would save over the years are dollars that we can deploy in other areas that can be helpful to the broad range of the people. Because if you reduce your overhead costs here, you can redistribute that money in some other places. It seems like this is really simple to me.
Yeah, but that's too much like right, Larry.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
hey, well, let's try something right. 'Cause we got a lot of people doing some crazy stuff that don't make any sense whatsoever. When it makes sense, then you would think that the chairs of appropriation, the governor, and everybody would say, "Look, let's. Is there any barrier? Is there something that we're missing? Because when it's so simple, it's hard for me. There's got to be something else I'm missing because I'm always challenging myself
Uh,
in the
yeah,
question.
there's tons missing, but I don't focus on that. I'm trying to be affirmative. I don't want to look back and say this, that, or the other is why. I think that the strength of the intellectual argument of the policy terms and the financial arrangement are such as that we can win this argument on the merits. When we go to Springfield, when we talk with our legislators, this is not a black conversation. It's not a brown conversation. It's a green conversation, and it's a red conversation. We're going to win this on the merits, and we're going to win this because it's in the best interest of all the citizens of the state of Illinois. And I do believe that entities that are involved in good government at some point in time can't look past this. If there's a reason why this hasn't permeated this, that's why we're doing the show today, because we need to bring this and keep it in the face and in the consciousness of the legislators so that they know that why aren't we doing this? This is an easy win. It's a self-evident truth. But we have to continue to promote it. The citizens have to clamor for it. The businesses that are going to be involved in it have to do what every other business in the state does, call their reps and say, hey, this is important to me. Will you support this? We haven't done that to the extent to which we could, such that it not only got through the General Assembly, but permeated the consciousness of the citizens. Because I'm very mindful of the notion that if the appropriation passed again tomorrow, and we didn't do the types of things that Jeff's company is going to do, which is to go into the communities and create informational expertise amongst the citizens, then we really would not have made the difference that we want to. So we have to begin the conversation that is meant to be transformational and getting our communities to understand that we should be having more conversations about health promotion, about health prevention, and not just about building another sick care facility so that we can go get patched up once disease presents. We have to transform the mindset to where we want to stay well, so that we don't have to get well down the road to much cost and to much angst in our families.
I love the way you think, Dr. Sterling. I heard a comment says that pessimist may be right in the long run, but the optimist has a better time of the trip. Learn to enjoy the trip. Okay,
Sure.
so I want to enjoy the trip, and I'm excited because I do believe that Illinois is an incredible state. And I think that we have to continue to just hammer away at this and hope that not just hope, but really work on making sure that our friends and the legislators and everyone see what we already see. And I think they see it. I think we just got to continue to move the agenda forward.
Yeah, let me point out one quick point. I noticed you had my last book down there on the table, and literally one of the chapters of the book is about Illinois. Illinois has a long and strong history of healthcare innovation, perhaps second only to Massachusetts in that regard. And this is very much in keeping with Illinois' tradition of being innovative and producing better healthcare solutions. I would think that it would want to continue that tradition, given the healthcare outcomes that are there for the reaching. And I think it would be a great platform for the governor of Illinois to have in his pocket, because the next great innovation in healthcare, mark the day you heard this, you should have heard this prior to now, but the next great innovation in the healthcare system of this country is going to be a focusing on health prevention and promotion. And that's what the SimpCo solution is on the policy part of this conversation.
Preventive care is what I would say. Preventive care is the same as AI. All of them create greater efficiency and a greater opportunity for growth and development. From my perspective, AI is transformational. It has enormous benefit, but so does the preventive care solution has enormous benefits also.
Well, you got my attention when you said AI, because I'm gonna put the two together. AI and preventative care, yes, both take good input, garbage in, garbage out. So
Mm.
if you're doing AI, make sure you're putting in good information and asking for what you want. Same thing I'm hearing from preventative care is
Absolutely.
that whatever goes in my mouth, in my body, I'm responsible for. So that has to be good as well. What were you saying, Jeff Trask?
Well, I was also saying there's a lot of ripple effects that we also don't consider oftentimes. When we can keep people healthy, that means they are maintaining their employment, they're paying taxes to the system. So it gets back to that win-win-win scenario where you better everybody in the long run, community wide, by keeping people healthy.
Yeah. Well, I want to take some time to just thank both of you. And I know that, for our listeners, I know that we don't necessarily want to point out the ugly in things, but we had a little bit of a faux pas earlier, and I do apologize to our listeners for that, because you can lose interest. But guess what? We brought it back strong, and I hope that you guys understand, because we will be here each and every Saturday at 9 o'clock. That's right here on WVON 1690. And also, for those of you that could not get through as callers, we do apologize, as we were trying to focus and hyper concentrate this conversation with Dr. Jeffery Sterling of SimpCo Solutions and Jeff Trask. And of course, Larry Ivory, you think we should let them know that they can go to ILBCC to become, let me just say, it's ilbcc.org to
Absolutely.
become a member and to become a volunteer, get information. We're going to look at those comments that were put onto our social media. But speaking of social media, make sure you subscribe on YouTube. That's the Wake Up Show Chicago on YouTube. We have a Facebook page, which is Wake Up Show Chicago. And of course, the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce. We couldn't do this without Wind Creek Casino. We certainly
Absolutely.
want to thank them for their sponsorship in this show. And because we were talking about legislators, we were able to go to Lobby Day because of Wind Creek Casino. Hello.
And a host of others.
Yeah, and a host of others.
We
Yes.
had,
ComEd, Amarin. Yes.
yes.
There's a long list.
But I want to say this real quick because we started late. So I'm going to just, Dr. Sterling, give us closing thoughts in terms of what would you want the audience, if this was your last few moments, what would you want the audience to understand about this right now that they need to understand? Go buy the book. I mean, tell us something.
Um, no, I'm not here to pitch books, Don. The books take care of themselves. What I'm here to pitch is you being a better steward of your own healthcare. I think that regardless as to what happens with any piece of legislation, what we're discussing is something that is a must for you in your individual lives. You have got to get to the point to where you find a trusted messenger, where you take health seriously, more as a priority in your life. Healthcare is not the same as medical care. Having good health doesn't mean having access to a physician once you get sick. It means having the tools to take care of yourself. So go to the SimpCoSolution.com. Do call your reps, your senators and your reps to talk about the SimpCo solution. Ask what's happening in health prevention. Ask what the status of this is if you're interested. And by all means, just put some thought to the fact that there are things that you can do to take care of yourselves and your families. And that makes for a better quality of life. And that's what we want to leave you with today.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next week. I want to thank Dr. Jeffery Sterling and again, Jeffrey Trask for coming onto the Wake Up Show Chicago. Larry, I'm going to
Thank
take
you.
us out of here because we're going to get to this live remote that WVON has set up for today. I'm on my way there. They're doing business on 75th Street. That's where I grew up. All right. Thanks for the coming to the Wake Up Show Chicago, and make sure you come to the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce and you go to ilbcc.org. All right, I'm a proud member. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Get ready to wake up to the pulse of progress as we amplify voices, break barriers, and illuminate the path towards a more inclusive tomorrow. Follow us across the socials at The Wake Up Show Chicago. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. It's The Wake Up Show every Saturday morning at 9, where change begins with every sunrise. Welcome to The Wake Up Show Chicago.
That's the end?
The talk of Chicago is 1690 WVON, Berwyn, Chicago.
Click is more than a program. It's a movement. We're teaching the next generation of creators, tech experts, and leaders how to thrive in the digital age. Our esports, music production, and coding courses are empowering individuals to break the cycle of violence and create positive change. By partnering with Click, your organization can help sponsor life-changing programs while also gaining exposure. To donate, please visit www.clickservices.org. Donations are just one click away.